It's gonna be an interesting one because I really don't know what to talk about. Usually, when you're here, I mean, usually you're here like we do the podcast and you've been in Florida for a while. But
yeah, I've been doing stuff, but yeah, I've just been stuck in Jersey for a month.
Yeah, so you've basically been, I mean, just doing your thing.
Doing nothing.
We're gonna have to, doing your thing, which is nothing. What are we gonna talk about?
I think we start with the card tonight.
The card, yeah, I kind of agree. We got a big UFC. So by the time this comes out, now you can't do that because the mic's gonna pick that up. Just so you know, the bouncing.
Man.
Yeah, sorry to destroy your dreams instantly, but so tonight, by the time this comes out, the fights would have already happened. Mm-hmm. We had two big things start, which was by now, as I said, the fights would have happened, but also the Jake Paul fight happened the night before. One of those things that no one heard of.
I had no idea Jake Paul was fighting.
None of us knew until literally the day of. I don't know what exactly happened, but this was a big one for him. For those of you that don't know, this was a big one because he was on he kind of flip-flopped, right? He won all the way up until Tommy Fury. He lost to Tommy Fury, which was the only legitimate boxer who was, let's be honest, he's one of those guys, no disrespect, he's one of those guys that is really famous for his older brother. He's not that, he's actually more so known for the Love Island thing than he is boxing. So Jake lost to that guy. I felt like it kind of hurt his credibility a little bit, but then he goes and beats Nate Diaz, which is a pretty big one. But again, not a boxer. So the fact that this boxing match went so under the radar kind of sucks for him, but he got a first round knockout, which is pretty nuts.
Well, I personally am not a Jake Paul hater. I don't like the guy. I don't hate the guy. I think he's good at boxing.
I agree.
I think that because he's up to the caliber of fighter now, arguably with Tommy Fury, that beat Nate Diaz, he probably wanted to squeeze in a guaranteed win before looking for an actual fighter, an actual boxer in that weight class.
Yeah.
Which is why he didn't promote this fight that much. Like, if I just quickly Googled the pay-per-view numbers, and they don't even give you the pay-per-view numbers.
It's got to be so bad.
It's probably very small. But, I think he's a good boxer. I think he's ready to fight a better opponent. I think he wanted to squeeze in an easy win to boost the record.
Yeah, I agree. I think what he did was smart in the sense of, like, let's keep it on the radar. If I lose, it's not that big of a deal because no one watched. If he wins, it's something to get in.
He knew he was going to win.
You think so?
I've never heard of. I still don't even know the name of the guy he just fought. Like, it's nobody special.
Yeah.
And I saw like a clips of this guy throwing punches, and it looked pathetic.
Really?
It looked so bad. Yeah. I mean, I think you just want to boost your record, which I don't blame him. Everyone gives him shit for having like a pretty lackluster style of fighter, but if you look at every other boxer, even most of these UFC fighters, their first 10 fights, you'd be like, what the heck? Like, these guys are nobodies. Like, if you look at, what's his name? Habib's fucking first 10 fights, it was like,
oh, well, yeah. The argument for Khabib is his, like, strength of schedule. People call him the greatest, one of the greats in MMA, but the argument is if you look at his first, like, 10 fights, they're, like, guys that were... like 80,
but that's everyone. It really is everyone. A lot of people don't realize that. Like pull up like a Mike Tyson's first 10 fights, and you'll be like, "What? These count as fights?"
What's also weird with the UFC is a lot of times they'll start your record from where you left off in a prior league.
Yeah, as long as it was considered professional league, they'll keep it because it's your professional record. But some of these quote unquote professional leagues are like, "What the fuck?"
Well, remember when Tommy Fury was fighting Jake, we were going through his records, and he was fighting guys that were like 1 in 118.
Yeah, well, boxing's even worse because it's a dying sport, so it's hard to find guys to fight, as well as to bring people in to watch those fights. Like, whatever weight class Jake Paul's in, I think he's 185. Name another 185 boxer right now. Like, I don't even know. Who's the best?
Yeah, I don't know. I can only name like 4 boxers. That's how little I care about boxing.
Also, like, these boxers are... like moving around in weight class so much because there's nobody to fight. Like, I'm pretty sure Canelo is the champion. Like, and obviously boxing isn't like UFC where it's like a 15-pound difference. Boxing is like fucking 3-pound difference in weight class. A guy will lose it. That's the biggest problem with boxing. A guy will lose a belt
but they show the rest of the belts he has, and it's like, oh, this guy's he's got 20 other belts.
That's why I never liked it. There's I think 3 major belts in boxing per weight class.
I don't even know them.
I forget. I read up on it a while ago. I know Kins knows it, but there's 3 of them, and then you unite them and get a 4th, or 2, and you unite them and you get a 3rd.
The one that's probably the hardest, or like the biggest kick in the face to boxing, I think, was the Ngannou fight. Like, that was a big
Ngannou won.
Yeah, there's a big argument. So for those of you that don't know, Francis Ngannou left the UFC, went to go box Tyson Fury, which is Tommy Fury's older brother. Arguably the greatest to ever live. Tyson's the other argument, like Mike Tyson.
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali. Again, I think that's another case of like when you go way back and there weren't that many big fighters. I think that's one of those situations where also if you look at Muhammad Ali's record, he was so much better than them, no question about it. But you look at the guys that he fought, and I think it was kind of like that as well.
No, there were some good boxers back then. There's probably better boxers back then because boxing was so much more popular. It was more technical. Yeah. It was more popular. Like that was right after the war. Everyone was fighting in the war with hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah,
they all come back. The amount of people boxing was significantly greater than the amount of people doing mixed martial arts back then. I promise you that.
That's probably
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
UFC wasn't even a thing. I don't even think Bellator was around yet. What was it? ONE FC? I forget which one came first, but I promise you, there's a lot more people boxing in our.
Who do you think had the hardest strength to schedule though? Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali?
I gotta look. Probably Mike Tyson.
I would think so too. Yeah, which is why I would put him above. I to your point, I think Muhammad Ali was the better technical boxer, whereas Mike Tyson just had the hard hitting punches and fights, wars.
The craziest thing about Muhammad Ali was just that he was a heavyweight who moved like he wasn't a heavyweight, versus Mike Tyson was a heavyweight who threw like a really strong heavyweight.
And that's why they say Tyson Fury is so good, because he's got the strength of Tyson but the footwork of Ali.
But he doesn't.
Just like that's what they say.
He doesn't have the footwork of Ali.
Well, and I think Ngannou kind of proves that. Like the fact that an MMA fighter who started as a boxer many, many years ago comes into the ring and fights the greatest of all time and arguably wins. It's like that to me was the reason to turn off boxing.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, nobody was watching boxing anyway.
Yeah, they call it like an old person sport now. It's not like a gentleman's sport. I guess
it's not as healthy for your brain as the UFC is. It's not as entertaining to watch because what's he gonna do next? Throw a punch? It's like, wow, cool.
Yeah, there's not many. It's a very two-dimensional sport
and
now.
It's obviously blatantly an easier sport than mixed martial arts UFC fight.
I would agree. It's very hard to make the argument the other way.
You have one mixed martial arts discipline versus all of the mixed martial arts disciplines. Which one do you think is going to be harder? Probably the one you need to know all of the. You at least need to know wrestling, a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and you gotta be able to throw punches.
Yeah, there's more aspects to the sport, which is why it's way more interesting.
Which is why it's more entertaining. Which is why people are actually watching it more, and why people are realizing boxing is pretty boring in comparison.
Well, that's why. I mean, we talked about it in the last podcast, I'm sure, but like that's why it's so amazing how Jake and Logan, even though at one point they weren't that known for boxing, but the eyeballs that they brought to the sport is impressive. So. It's like
I disagree.
You disagree? Okay, let's hear
eyeballs he brought to the sport. Can you name any new boxers?
I'm talking viewership.
Viewership of their own fights, not boxing. I'm sure their viewership is high,
fair.
But every other boxing fight that's going on is not high. Conor McGregor comes in, UFC goes up. Yes, the McGregor fights are still going to be the most pay-per-view.
So you're saying that you wouldn't consider what they do, and I agree with you.
It's eyes on them. It's not eyes on the sport.
On the sport. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
But see, would you say that Jake Paul more as a boxer now than as a vlogger?
Yeah.
Like I think, like I would consider him a boxer, and this was his first.
I've been
fight.
saying he was a boxer. I'm not saying this was a real fight. I don't know who this guy is he fought. Like for what Conor did for the UFC.
Hold on, can I pause you? What's your definition of real fight then? Because to me, if it goes on your record, it's a real fight.
Oh, okay. Well, then why is this one? Would you say is his first really? I mean, he has.
I would say it's his first one because this is the first guy that's like a real boxer.
I thought Tommy Fury would at least be.
It's tough because Tommy Fury's not known as a boxer. He's a boxer, but he was known for like his fame came from Love Island. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I get that, but I think like the Love Island thing was a while ago. Let me see.
Within the last 2 years, I would say. Let's see. I'm gonna say 2020, middle of COVID.
He was on season 5 of Love Island, which was when?
I'm gonna say 2020.
Now give me a date.
2.
Let's see. Season 5 of Love Island.
But see what I mean? They don't talk about Boxer, right? They just say,
no, but you're saying that he wasn't known for it.
yeah.
Tommy Fury grew up in a household of boxing.
Agreed.
Jake Paul did not.
Yeah, he grew up
Tommy
as a wrestler.
Fury, yes, you only knew him for Love Island prior, but he had been boxing his whole life. You can't tell me he hasn't when his brother is the heavyweight champion of the world, has been fighting his whole life. I'd probably believe the little brother was boxing as well, and I'm sure there's proof of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had professional fights before Love Island.
That's true.
Versus you just said you knew that he grew up, or Jake Paul grew up in a wrestling household. I know him because he's a blogger, you know? I don't know him.
That's fair. But, again, I have to look at strength of schedules again, because Tommy Fury must have maybe one of the easiest strength of schedules in history.
I wouldn't say strength of schedule is the right term here, but I know what you're trying to say. I think that the majority of people who box, their first 10 to 15 fights are versus nobodies.
Agreed.
I think that Jake Paul's quote-unquote nobodies would have been retired UFC fighters. Does that make them more credible than a nobody? Somebody who...
Oh, that's tough. I would say yes.
I would agree.
I would say that. Yes.
I would agree. The fact that were UFC fighters gives them credibility, but the fact that they're retired from that sport almost feels like it evens it out, in my opinion.
You think so?
Because it's like, yeah, let me go, wait till Michael Jordan's 80 years old and then play him in a game of 10.
Yeah. When you take it from that perspective, you're right. It's just hard for me to justify that. Well, actually, let's take it back. It's actually kind of impressive how basically Logan and Jake kind of shit-talked their way into making a boxing league that is arguably doing more numbers.
It's not.
You don't think so?
It's not. They are not putting up numbers. People aren't even buying.
Well, let's check it. Does he pull a mom?
Is it good?
Now you're good. Damn it.
People aren't even buying UFC pay-per-views.
Yeah.
And you're trying to tell me, because odds are, I don't think there's anybody who watches Jake Paul fight that doesn't watch the UFC.
Well, what's interesting, have you ever noticed this? So when Jake Paul and Logan both talk about their pay-per-views, they'll talk about pay-per-view and then they'll talk about how many illegal streams, like how many were illegal streamed. But the UFC doesn't talk about how many they illegally stream, obviously, because it's a well-developed.
Not only that, how do you know?
I think you can estimate based on what I think there's ways of doing it, you know?
All right.
I think you could look.
I know somebody who illegally streams, and then on top of that, in another service, streams it to 10 other people. How are you going to calculate that? You can't.
Yeah.
So there's no way. If you're already illegally streaming a fight, you're probably streaming it to your boys as well. So it's like, how do you calculate that?
How do you calculate the numbers? Right.
So I don't believe that for a second. I also see what Dana White is saying about how, there is just not a chance in hell that Jake Paul's putting up these numbers. Because he's like, what person is buying that fight? The 13-year-old kid is paying for it to watch Jake Paul fight? I don't think that's his audience anymore.
That's a very good point.
Anyone who's watching Jake Paul watches UFC. Anyone who's watching Jake Paul fight, I mean. Anyone who's watching that boxing match watches UFC. It's not, there's not a pocket of people that exist out there that only watch Jake Paul fight. You know what I mean?
That's true.
The type of person who watches a Jake Paul boxing match also watches UFC.
I'm surprised YouTube hasn't tried to strike a deal with him in the sense of, hey, we'll get you the eyeballs.
Let me just get to my point real quick.
Oh, sorry.
If you're watching UFC, you're not paying for UFC. You're stupid if you do. Everybody is not paying.
Dana, don't.
That's why Dana's numbers are already low. And they're still good numbers, but that's why they're already low. There's no chance that if you as a UFC enjoyer who knows how to pirate UFC streams is going to then say, you know what, let me pay for a Jake Paul fight.
I think there are the purists out there who are like, man, I'm always going to pay because I love the UFC and I want them to do well.
No, okay, but then turn that on to Jake Paul. What person is a purist on a Jake Paul fight? That's a good point. You can't tell me my grandfather who loves boxing so much is going to pay pay-per-view for Jake Paul's fight. I don't care. The generation that pays for pay-per-views is older than us. And yes, they might be more boxing focused compared to mixed martial like UFC, but they're not paying for a Jake Paul fight. Maybe a Tyson Fury fight, Tank Davis, something like that. but they're not paying for Jake Paul.
Do you think that... Okay, right, I'm going to take you a different way. Just derail the conversation real fast. Do you think pay-per-view is going to be... I don't want to say obsolete, but do you think that there's going to be a point to it? Like, do you think the pirating is getting so bad that pay-per-view is kind of going to have to go away and they have to find a different method? Because to your point, it's way too easy to pirate.
Well, we kind of already have some information on this, you and I, that I don't know if we want to bring up here on this podcast.
Oh, that's a fair point, yeah.
Because that is what's going to happen in the future.
Gotcha, yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
Without spoiling anything, I'd say...
That's a good point. I totally forgot about
pay-per-view will go away eventually because of the pirating.
Why do you know that, brother?
But the solution will be a subscription-based system that will give you all the fights.
That's a very
high
good
quality.
point. I think we could say
it's
that.
not going to be a one-time purchase of a fight. It's whatever organization will host a subscription-based process.
Brother, this is genius. How do you have
I can't say how I know the info.
Man, one of these days, one of our viewers are going to figure out what the hell we do. And it's like, oh. But, either way, I think it is impressive, though, that Jake has gotten this far from being a YouTube blogger to kind of basically shit-talking his way to a boxing career. And now you could make the argument with the Tommy Fury one that he could move into that kind of space of going down the professional route. And to me, this fight that was on Friday...
That's what I was going to look up.
The fight on Friday was kind of him stepping in and seeing, can I actually do this professional boxing stuff? And I think based on a first-round knockout...
I think we're past that. And I think that I think he's in the professional space. He's been there. My point is that this fight was nothing but a tune-up fight, essentially. He wanted it under the radar because I don't know this guy's name that he fought, but I promise you, if we pull him up, you're going to see some fucking horse farmers on his record.
Let's see.
I will guarantee everything that this guy, once you pull up his fight record and who he's fought, you're going to be like, who the heck? And now I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. I'm not saying that makes it an illegitimate fight. I'm saying that that's the reason why this went underneath. And I'm also pointing out that there is nobody to fight in boxing. Like, this is the caliber opponent that you're going to get if you want to do, a boxing match nowadays. Like, who the fuck is boxing? Anybody who's anybody is doing a mixed martial arts UFC.
But do you think Jake should take it in the way... Like, this is what I mean by stepping
I think that if Jake Paul really wanted to be seen as a fighter, he would have been doing mixed martial arts. I think he chose boxing because it is the easiest route to being a professional fighter. This guy doesn't even have an international record. He's fighting All-Americans.
Oh, good call. Yeah. So, debut, 1-1. Debut, 1-0 and a draw, 4 losses, 3-3, 6-25,
6-25,
5-16,
7-13. Like, there's a quick 3 wins on guys who...
So, just so you guys know, just looking at this, Jake has the best record out of anyone that he's fought. So, yeah, you're right. You're completely right.
But and I'm not saying that should take away the fact that Jake Paul won. I'm saying that is every caliber fighter in this fucking shitfuck of boxing.
Yeah.
Like, there is nobody who's impressive where you'd be like, oh, if Jake Paul were to fight this guy, it'd be a good fight. It's like Jake Paul's just kind of getting whatever he can get because that's all he has.
Yeah.
But going into his whole let me become a boxer scenario, he knew that this would be the scenario. Like you're fighting fucking 6-25, 5-16s, 7s and 13s. Because if you were doing this in MMA, we saw the records of, the equivalent of what he would be fighting in the UFC space, the mixed martial arts space. We saw that firsthand when we went to that fight in Pennsylvania. Those guys would be this caliber of fighter, but you saw their records. They weren't 7s and 13s. They were positive records.
Right. That's a good point, yeah.
Those guys, like, if you want to climb the ranks in UFC, in mixed martial arts, you got to go through legit, challenging fighters. When you make it, it only gets harder. In boxing, when you make it, it only gets easier.
So what does Jake do from here?
What do you mean? For him, he's in like the simplest scenario. He's in the best scenario. He's only going to find guys that have only fought this caliber schedule. So the winner of all these shit fighters fights Jake Paul. That cycle is going to continue over and over again where guys who fight nobodies will eventually, one of them is going to have a 10-0 record from fighting nobodies. Jake Paul versus 10-0 fighter. Looks good.
Oh, yeah.
That cycle just repeats over and over again in boxing.
Okay, but so you think so? Would you say that he's going to go through? So this is what I'm trying to ask, or what I'm trying to get to. So do you think that instead of him doing his Showtime special and these big boxing things, do you think he just goes by what the? Because this wasn't his promotion league. This was the boxing promotion.
This
league.
one wasn't his.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you do in that regard? Like, does he keep going down that road?
I think he keeps going down that road until it isn't paying him anymore.
So you think he is in it more so for the pay? Like in my head,
No,
it's like
it's a win-win for him. He looks like a legitimate boxer. I think he is, but
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that if he had switched to non-boxing, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
He is making money allegedly. I think he probably is. He's winning. He's whatever pay-per-views are coming in are obviously because of him being there. No one's paying to watch Brandon Martin fight, so it's like he probably gets 90% of the pay-per-views that do actually come in, plus ticket sales. I'm sure a little bit goes down to these guys, but there is no flaw to what he's doing. On paper, he's a one-loss boxing fighter, professional, who's making money, and it makes him look like a legitimate fighter.
That's
Now,
fair.
if someone tried to do this in mixed martial arts instead of boxing, it would not work.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is why he did boxing. I'm not saying he wanted to be a fighter. The easiest way to get from point A to point B where he wants to be is to do it through boxing, so that you can end up with something like this. Because if you did this in the UFC, or if you were training mixed martial arts so that you could compete professionally in the UFC, you could not be able to do that.
Agreed.
You wouldn't be running into this kind of caliber fighter.
Yeah, I don't think you will. Yeah, to your point. So the way the UFC works, guys, because we have a little bit of knowledge from what we've experienced, like there's a bunch of organizations throughout the country and throughout the world where they basically kind of everyone fights, you get to like a championship level, and then eventually you move to a bigger organization and bigger organization, and then right to the UFC maybe. Right?
And yes, they call them professional fight leagues, and they are professional, but that's a great comparison into boxing where they have these professional leagues, because a guy like Michael Chandler, who was a god in Bellator, who was the best in Bellator, unbelievable, then he comes to the UFC and it's
he got thrown to the wolves.
It's not a good performance.
Yeah. So Michael Chandler, for those of you that don't know, Kenny's completely right. The other thing about Michael Chandler is if he wasn't as good of an interesting fighter, what I mean by that is like constantly throwing punches, he's not afraid to get
if
bloody.
if he wasn't entertaining to watch,
he would not be a big
in the
draw.
UFC. Yeah. Now he's fighting Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
Like that is the best
great
fight.
for him, but it's
but that's the best you can get in the UFC right now.
You know, if Conor loses this is the theory. If Tony Ferguson loses or wins and Conor loses, they might run that one for their last ones. Tony Ferguson versus Conor. It would make sense because
who the fuck wants to watch that?
Oh, it'd be like two geriatrics.
Yeah.
Like and no one wants to watch it, but it kind of makes sense when you
if
think
Conor
about it.
can somehow beat Michael Chandler, which probably skill set wise he can beat Michael Chandler. The issue is Michael Chandler is just a brick wall.
And
he can get the shit punched out of him, stay on his feet, and he can throw punches.
The only thing that can stop Conor from beating Michael Chandler, I think, is himself. What I mean by that is, where's his headspace?
Well, no, I think the main thing is Conor McGregor the same fighter we saw when he, like, even when he broke his leg, we were even going into that fight, we were questioning if he was the same fighter that he was. Ever since he went to boxing, his stance changed, his whole like mindset towards it, and as Dana White has said, you know, once you make all that money, it's not so easy to get back in the ring and get punched in the face over and over again when you're rich.
Yeah,
you know, there's no desire to do that. So it's really, is he still a good fighter? And is he good enough to beat Michael Chandler? It's the perfect fight, in my opinion.
I think he is, but Michael Chandler, to your point, he's just a wall. Like
he's just a wall, but he can dish it out too.
Yeah.
But the real thing about Michael Chandler is he can take it.
Well, the Michael Chandler's big thing was the kick to Ferguson's face, right? That was the one that really like. If he lost that one, I think that would have been.
I think Michael Chandler versus Gaethje and Poirier, or no. Michael Chandler's. Let me pull up his.
I believe you're right. It is Poirier.
Yeah, I might be mixing up the fights though. But the Gaethje fight was amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel
so was the Poirier fight. The Poirier fight was amazing.
And then it was that one as well. Then
those
two fights are the ones that I always knew who Michael Chandler was, but that's when I was like, oh my god, this guy's great to watch.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler.
There is something to because like if you look at Derek Lewis's record, Derek Lewis has had a fall from grace to say the least, but he hits so hard. Like he's interesting to watch, and he's funny.
He's got the personality.
Yeah. So there is more to it than fighting. Whereas in boxing, like I don't know anyone that has a personality except for maybe Fury, maybe. And he's
Boxing?
Yeah. Who's like the interesting person in boxing?
I think that there are none. I think Jake Paul.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I mean by bringing eyes to the sport. You're right. He doesn't bring it to the sport of the boxing league, but like it makes you realize like, oh, this is a fight organization that is still going strong. And I think
but for the most part, all the fight organizations are tailored to Jake Paul.
Yes.
So it's like,
but isn't that amazing, kind of in itself? That I'm trying to give credit where credit's due.
But the guy was already famous going into it. Is my point. Who the fuck's Conor McGregor? Okay, Conor McGregor comes into UFC. Conor McGregor blows the fuck up, and UFC blows up.
That's true.
Jake Paul's already famous. Jake Paul goes into boxing. Boxing is famous because of Jake Paul. I'm putting 2 and 2 together here. Like it's not that complicated. You know, he's already famous when he goes into it.
Right.
It's not like Conor.
But it's also. But I think what's also impressive though is the fact that even though Jake was just a famous beforehand, he still has to beat these guys, and he is beating these guys.
Fair. But you know, if there was a guy named Jake Paul in boxing who was beating these guys, I probably still wouldn't watch.
Yeah.
I knew if I knew it was Jake Paul because he's famous, and it's like, yeah, it's interesting to watch.
Yeah.
If there was some random guy named Jake Paul fighting Tommy fucking Fury, I don't give a shit about either of those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair point.
I didn't even care about Tommy Fury in the first place. Like I like watching Tyson Fury fight, so I thought, oh, maybe Tommy's gonna be, you know, just as impressive. Spoiler alert, no, he's not.
Yeah, the other downside to the YouTube boxing, and we saw this with the KSI one, like they're not good boxers. Yeah, they bring in names, but like it's not
good
what
boxing.
they do.
The
in
only reason that it's viewed is
boxing.
because they're already famous.
Yeah,
that's been my
Agreed.
point this whole time. Like Conor McGregor comes in and he was a good fighter, which brought it publicity, which made him more famous. Jake Paul is already famous. It's almost like you're forced to watch him box because it's like not good boxing. I mean, his past fights been pretty cool. I didn't watch this last one. I didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah,
but
you didn't miss much. It was like
in the
30
beginning, it was like not entertaining at all to watch. Now it's at least a little bit better. But you watch like every other YouTube boxer out there. Like I'll see a quick clip of it on TikTok or something because I'm not fucking watching that fight. The fight's terrible.
Yeah.
Like there is no
There's
no
ones
scenario.
you wouldn't even pirate because it's not.
Yeah,
worth your
exactly.
time.
but if these guys said instead of doing a boxing match, let's do an MMA match, I would watch it. I would watch 2 nobodies get in a ring and duke it out. With every option they could do. Like I would watch that. But to watch 2 guys who don't know how to fight go into boxing, it's not even entertaining to me. 2 guys who don't know
in
how
that
to,
perspective, I completely agree.
2 people who don't know how to fight get into a UFC ring and just try to go after it. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll watch that. I mean, shit, dude. My TikTok feed is like 1 Russian hulking woman versus like 3 small Russian dudes.
Seen those.
Like I'll watch that all day. Like that is interesting.
Have you ever seen the ones where the guys they like put them in a phone booth?
Yeah, or in a car. Yeah. Oh my god.
They have to unbuckle and beat the shit out
the
of
one
each
was
other.
like, oh, that was a veteran move. He reached for his seatbelt instead of his own to hold him in and started hitting him. I was like, oh my god. How many seasons has
I
this
saw
been?
one where
That's
a guy
a
like
veteran
put the
move.
thing around the guy's neck with the.
Yeah.
They were like, "You can't do that. You can't do that."
Like I remember watching the what was his name, Kimbo Slice videos on YouTube.
Ooh, yeah.
And like, yes, those were mainly striking, obviously, but it's not boxing. It was still better to watch than a boxing fight.
Yeah, I mean the backyard stuff is that stuff scares me because you can really have something go wrong in those. But have you ever seen the ones? What's the one with like the hay bales where people
Yeah, I know
will
what you're
fight?
talking about.
Yeah, dude, some people get the shit kicked out of them.
Yeah. That the only downside of those is that there isn't really a good refereeing going on.
Yeah,
But it's like in terms of damage, we've seen now at the bare knuckle with what's his name, Perry.
Yeah.
Like, it was just more proof that UFC gloves aren't to protect your face; they protect the fighter's knuckles.
Yeah.
It's a common misconception. Same with boxing. Common misconception that the gloves are to make the punches lighter for the guy getting punched. No, that's not true. It's to protect your hands so you don't get a break. So, with that being said, Michael Perry's face isn't as fucked up. It's fucked up
Yeah.
after a fight,
Yeah.
but it's really their hands that are really what fucks them up.
So our viewers probably don't really know, but Platinum Mike Perry, he was a guy, perfect example of kind of what we were talking about. He was a guy that was mediocre at best in the UFC, and now he goes to bare knuckle boxing, which is psychotic that we even allow this, but he's dominating in bare knuckle boxing. The problem is, if you see their faces after the bare knuckle boxing, it's not pretty. Like you can see that their skull is now completely reshapen. Someone spit out like a piece of their jaw.
I saw that. Was that a bare knuckle?
Oh, that was hockey.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
was
that was
hockey.
hockey.
My
That was
bad.
hockey.
But still, I mean, you're losing teeth in that, even if you have a guard, right? Even
Yeah.
if you have a mouth guard, that still has to be quite the shock to your fucking teeth.
Don't get me wrong. Like being bare knuckle will definitely do more damage than
Yeah.
having a glove on. But
To your point,
what's
the
the saying?
knuckles are
It's
really
like when
fucked up.
you
There's no winner.
No. Nobody wins with a headbutt.
No one
that's
wins
for
with
sure.
a headbutt. That's what I.
But it's like the force that you put out will be equal to the force against it. When you throw a punch, if you hit someone with 10 pounds, your knuckles feel like they're getting hit with 10 pounds as well.
Right.
So like their hands are it's fucked. Like yes, their face looks terrible, but their hands are actually really worse. Usually they at least have 1 or 2 blocks or breaks in their
That's gotta be like
hand bones.
Dude, that when you're older, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, I mean you can't just. I just imagine like I had a boxer's break in my right hand, and I just remember the pain of like trying to make a fist for the longest time. I can only imagine after a full. I don't know what they do. 3 rounds, 5 minutes. 3 rounds, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know the rules of bare knuckle.
Imagine that. Like when you're just steady connecting on somebody for that long, just punching bone. Because I don't even think they really do body shots in there.
There's
do.
no point.
They do because it's like.
Bro, I'm just imagine. Can you imagine that uppercut?
Yeah, it looks like they're doing body shots in there, but it's really they're aiming for the ribs.
Yeah,
they're trying to get
break
bone and bone and bone.
Yeah, that's a brutal sport.
Mm-hmm. It's tough to watch.
Yeah. I don't know what's worse though, that or the power slap.
I was just about to say
the power slapping's got to be just as bad.
If there was another one that I couldn't give less a fuck about, like in order, like I was embarrassed for Dana. Yeah, I'm sure he's making money on it, but I was genuinely embarrassed when Dana said, "I'm buying power slap."
Yeah,
I think it is the dumbest shit. Like I think you have to be the lowest brain cell human to 1 do that and 2 sit there and watch it.
Yeah.
Like, let me just watch 2 guys get slapped in the face over and over again.
That's a crazy
It's
one.
just stupid to me. Like, in order, I would rather watch Jake Paul fight nobody. Well, let me start at the bottom. I'd rather go slap, then Jake Paul, then bare knuckle, then UFC.
I agree.
That's my
Where's
order.
boxing fit in there now?
When I said Jake Paul, I meant boxing in general.
Boxing. Okay. Now, here's a question. Would you rather watch arm wrestling or power slap? Because arm wrestling's making
Arm wrestling.
Really?
I'd watch arm wrestling over power slap.
Yeah. I agree because there's more technicalities to that.
The grip.
Are you saying that power slap doesn't have anything, no technique or anything to it? Is that what you're...
I mean, you're not even allowed to flinch. So, like, you can't even, like, tighten up.
Yeah, there's some weird rules to it.
It just doesn't look entertaining. It looks stupid to me. I think that any fight where you see a guy get knocked out is good, which is why I think Dana kind of saw something in it. Because I'm sure
it's good from a view's perspective. Yeah.
I'm sure the majority of them don't have a knockout in them, but I've definitely seen clips of guys getting knocked out in that slap thing. And, like, those are the clips that go viral, not the fucking 3 hours of 2 guys slapping each other. You know what I mean?
Is that really how long it is?
I don't know. I have no idea. I have not watched.
I like to think that power slap's pretty quick. Like, if it's too long, you know you're going to lose some viewership, you know? I'll see the clips. That's about it. There's been some good, some funny content, I guess. But, like, when I hear UFC and stuff that Dana White does, I don't want funny to be what I associate with.
All right, listen to this. This is so dumb. So it's minimum 3 rounds. You have 30 seconds to slap the guy, and then the guy has 30 seconds to recover. There is a judging system based on a 10-point system with a round winner scoring 10 points and the opponent scoring 9 or fewer. So, like, winner, it's like a boxing sport. Yeah. Judge criteria is based on the striker's effectiveness as well as the defender's reaction and recovery time. So you get 30 seconds, but if you recover faster, you get, like, I don't know. That's so dumb.
Yeah, that you're playing with a dangerous sport. There's no way that's going to last a long time.
Like, it's already hard enough to determine what a significant strike is in the UFC. Now we're basing it off of just a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Strikers.
I knew it was going to be a problem when Dana said you got to look at our TikTok numbers. Like, that's how I knew we got.
Dude, it's on Rumble.
Yeah, it's.
Striker fouls include clubbing, stepping, illegal windups, and delay of game. Defender fouls include flinching, blocking, and delay of game.
Dude, can you believe that a group of people sat in a room to come up with these rules?
Warnings, point deductions, loss of strike, restrike, and disqualifications. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine you get hit, you flinch, but you still get hit, and then they say, foul on you, get slapped in the face again. It's like,
yeah, that's such a bad idea. But speaking of fights, let's talk about UFC 296 or whatever we're on, right? UFC 290. Well, we'll just do UFC. So, this is a huge one. Did you watch any of the press conference stuff?
I saw clips.
Dude, Colby Covington went in arguably a little too hard. I will not lie to you. That was a tough one to watch. And then we actually had two press conferences. The first one was the Colby Covington for the UFC coming up, which is tonight for us. And then the other one was all the big fights of next year. They do like a press conference for like a get ready for next year kind of thing. And Sean Strickland everyone's going in hard on everyone.
Yeah.
Sean Strickland went hard on Colby. Colby went hard on both Leon Edwards and Tony Ferguson, which was kind of weird because Tony Ferguson was like by the end they were friends. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. And then the Colby Covington Leon Edwards thing was kind of just, I don't want to say out of line. That's probably not the right word, but it was just fucking crazy.
If you're not used to Colby by now, you're just retarded.
Did you see the video of him today in the face-offs where he was like, I was just playing a character? Did
No,
you
I
see
didn't
that?
see that. Of course.
Yeah, he said that to Leon at the thing, and Leon looked like he calmed down a little bit, but like, yeah, that was ugly.
I mean, honestly, that could also just be really good mind games. Like, yes, I think Colby Covington's playing a character. No, I don't think he's actually a terrible guy. And, like, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, that's soft. Like, you saw after he beat Kamaru Usman, I was like, hey, man, I'm just trying to sell the fight. At the same time, like, I'm sure he's being genuine about that. Like, he's saying, hey, like, this isn't actually me. But at the same time, if you are against Colby Covington, that also doubles as mind games for Colby.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
Like, that still gets in the guy's head. Like, Leon Edwards going from being absolutely pissed to, I guess, just Colby. Like, that change in mindset over and over again is probably pretty tough.
Well, Colby, right, you know his story about how basically, right, he's just a wrestler.
Yeah.
And the UFC was going to cut him, and he was like,
Brazil.
I got to do something. And then all of a sudden, he just goes like, hey, Brazil, you guys fucking
country's a
suck.
shithole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
they're like, you know, you can stay.
now he's one of the biggest names. But we know someone who knows him very well, and they say he's the nicest guy in the world,
Yeah.
like off screen.
I think that.
It's like a WWE.
I think I'd be so happy if he wins tonight.
Yeah,
I would
I
love
want
to
to
see
win.
him champion.
He's worked so hard for that. Whether you like him or not,
Yeah.
he's worked way
So let's
harder
see
for
the
that
odds here.
championship. Leon Edwards.
We'll start at the bottom.
Yeah.
Ian Gary being canceled. Do we want to talk about that guy?
Dude, Ian Gary. This is one of those. This is like the greatest mystery of the UFC. I've heard so many stories about this guy. So this guy, Ian Macheri-Gatto. Well, hold on. Ian Machado. Jesus, Macheri. Because I saw RRY. I just completely mixed the two. Ian Machado Gary. He is he's supposed to be the next Conor McGregor. Like, that's kind of the idea. But people are like, it's kind of inauthentic.
Yeah.
And this whole thing just came out about how his wife is like double his age. Her ex-husband still lives with him as a trainer.
It's his nutritionist.
Yeah, and his nutritionist. And then so everyone in the UFC found out, and he's just been getting shit from like everyone. Like, people who hate each other are agreeing on this one.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Yeah, and then the fight gets canceled because he got pneumonia, which is interesting because no one's actually seen him sick. We just know, we're just told pneumonia.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any pictures of it. We don't have whatever. But everyone's like, hey, did the social media stuff finally get to you? So
it could have, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck can consciously have that going on in their life and be like, yeah, I'm gonna get on the stage with Colby. Like,
yeah, you know how bad that would have been.
Colby Covington, like, alone is gonna wreck that guy. On top of that, you let the whole UFC find out that exists. It's like, what the fuck?
It's just
he also like
weird
took his
play.
wife's maiden name.
Yeah, they do a hyphen,
which is pretty weird.
Yeah, it's more common nowadays, but yeah, I agree.
I've never heard of that. But I saw some comments on that being strange.
I kind of feel bad for Vicente Luque because they didn't even have time to give him a new fight.
Yeah,
like, he deserves that payday.
You're gonna back out early.
Yeah, he's a good fighter too.
Because this is gonna be the biggest card for the end of the year. Right? Is there another UFC?
No, this is the last one.
Okay, then yeah.
So
anything Colby's on is gonna.
That's
like we were saying about not paying for pay-per-views. If there's ever a fight where I'm like, all right, maybe I will, it's when Colby's fighting. It's when Colby's up. It's like, I want to see that guy. Something funny I wanted to point out on this card is if you go to the prelims.
Oh, I think I know what you're gonna say.
Do you know who's on the prelims?
Freaking, where is he? Cody Garbrandt
on the prelims,
which is wild because Cody, not a bad fighter at all. It's just like
just keeps losing.
He's 13-5. I think his losses just start coming. He lost.
I don't think he's won. And I'll check.
Well, once he lost to TJ Dillashaw.
That might have been the last one. I forget. Whichever one was on the same card as Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. I believe he lost to... I think he lost to TJ, and then the next fight, he knocked a guy out real bad. But I could be wrong.
Fight history. All right, so... His last win was against Asuncao. I don't remember that fight. Back in 2020.
Wow, that was the last time he fought?
That was the last time he won, not the last time
last
he
time.
fought.
Well, he beat...
He lost to Rob Font, then he
hold on.
loses to Kai,
His last
and then he
fight
fights
was-
tonight.
His last fight was versus Trevin Jones.
I'm
Who-
seeing
I'm
that
not-
didn't happen. What am I saying here?
For me, it says undecided. Right, he's fighting Kelleher, right? Today? Yeah, look at that. So,
Hold on.
this is what I'm looking at. Cody Garbrandt.
Okay,
beats
this says
Trevin.
he won in that fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. On my screen, it didn't say he had won at first.
Oh,
It was
Wow.
just blank.
When did he fight Dillashaw? That was 2018. I remember that fight. It's crazy how fast it goes. So he lost to TJ twice in a row. Bisping, St. Pierre. Wow.
I mean, he was impressive, and then it turns out, wait, where the fuck is Bisping? Where do you see Bisping?
Bisping. That was the UFC.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, why the fuck is he fighting
Why is he fighting
Bisping?
Bisping? No. Yeah, but to your point, it's not even that he's he's obviously losing a lot, but it's also the fact that he hasn't fought that much.
Like out of nowhere, the dude had a glass chin.
Yeah,
and, like
that's right.
was just started getting knocked the fuck out.
He got TKO'd how many times?
Dude, not only was he getting knocked out, he was like one of those fighters that all of a sudden was having those like mid-round get knocked out quickly and get out of it.
Yeah,
you know?
he got Look at that! Wow, he got TKO'd 1, 2, 3. That was his win. Unanimous decision. 4 out of his 5 losses.
Yeah.
God damn, that sucks.
All of a sudden, but like I said, like you know, when like Tyson Fury got punched by Wilder, and he gets knocked out and then he gets up like pretty quickly, like that happens in the UFC pretty frequently. We see like a guy get dropped, and then obviously he's knocked, but he quickly comes through and is like ready to go again. That was happening to Cody. Like he was getting dropped mid fights for that second, and like that adds up.
What time is it?
Because every time you get knocked,
I kind of want to see Cody fight. Oh, we still got time.
I don't give a fuck.
I kind of want to see Cody fight.
Let's see who's the favorite.
See if he gets
on that.
knocked out for a 6th time. If he gets knocked out for a 6th time, it might be
He
time.
is the favorite in this fight.
Let's hope. Let's hope he stays around, man.
Back to the main card.
Yep.
We start at the bottom.
Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett is going to be the first one. Interesting fight. It's not too crazy for me. Bryce Mitchell's that crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, I don't mind him. He's definitely a little weird. He's probably gonna win that.
Yeah, Josh Emmett's getting
What
old.
do they have him? They have him minus 238. Okay. Patty is a heavy favorite against Tony.
This is probably a big one to talk about. So
Two guys, I don't care about either of these guys. Truthfully, Truthfully, I think Tony Ferguson is fucking cringe, and I think Patty is annoying. I think Patty is another one of those wannabe Conor McGregors.
I do see your point. Now the problem with Patty, right, is that perfect example of strength of schedule that we were talking about before. He has yet to fight anyone that was that crazy, except for his last fight against.
Which is why I'm pretty sure he's unranked.
Yeah. Against his last fight was against
I don't remember who it was, but he lost that fight.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where everyone was like, "There's no way Patty won that one."
Yeah.
We think Dana was like, "Hey, we were trying to build this kid up. Don't give him an L." And it was close enough where it can flip flop. But Tony Ferguson, the love of the UFC. I mean, he's a 40-year veteran.
Everybody likes him, dude. I just think he's so cringe.
Say that to his face. Is that because of the he got memed on?
No, I just like I see all the shit that he says and talks about, like the way he talks, the way he like moves. I don't like him. But he's weird.
Pat, it's kind of a lose for Patty, because if Patty wins, he's hated as the guy that beat Tony Ferguson. If he loses, it's like, what do you do?
Tony Ferguson's another guy in one of those losing streaks. Let's see here.
Well, Tony's history. Like, he could be one of the oldest guys in the UFC. He's got to be. It's either him or Glover. Dear God, he's old.
All right, you're not going to believe this. When do you think the last time Tony Ferguson won was? What year?
Last time he won, I'm going to say 2018.
Possibly 2019. I don't know. I don't have a win or lose for him versus Cerrone. Let's see.
I think Cerrone beat him.
If Cerrone beat him, then it's 2018 was his last win.
Isn't that wild, though, that you're so beloved by the UFC that the UFC is like, you don't have to stop. You can keep fighting if you want. It's a terrible idea. But yeah, so if Tony, this is the thing. If Tony loses this, Tony Ferguson, for those of you that don't know, is a guy that everyone has been telling to retire for like the last 3 years, right?
Because he's having a lot of fights too. It's not like a one fight a year guy. Yeah. He hasn't won.
He's just been doing that poorly. But again, that's just age, and now you're coming into the new generation of fighters. You're gonna get the shit kicked out of you.
But he's also fought, Nate Diaz is an old fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Nah, I guess that's the only real old one here.
Yeah, the rest are probably all retired. Cerrone.
No. The rest are all young, I'm saying.
Oh, okay,
what's
gotcha.
his name? Green? Bobby Green?
Oh, Bobby Green, right. Yeah.
Bobby Green was the last one. Nate Diaz, then Michael Chandler, kicked him in the face. Dariush, Oliveira, Gaethje, and then he's won. So
that's a tough
Okay, so
schedule.
what I would say to someone like Ferguson is like, cool, if you want to stay, get out of arguably the best weight class.
Yeah,
in
you
the
kind of
UFC.
have to. That's a toughie.
Go fight some smaller guys. Like, there's no need to stay in this weight
it's
class.
just a shame because this is one of those ones where if he loses this, he probably should retire. Like, you got to throw the towel in. My guess is even if he loses, he won't until he gets the Conor McGregor.
I'm rooting for him here. I don't like Patty. I like David Goggins. He just spent the last 2 months training with David Goggins. I think that'll be a good.
Which he didn't need.
No,
Ferguson's cardio has always been his strength.
good.
Yeah,
but
it's always been his strength. But Patty, to your point, it's like it's kind of a lose-lose for Patty. If he loses, it's like, oh, you're clearly not ready for the real UFC, which is the top 10. But if you win, you're known as the guy that.
I don't think it's like that.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, let me ask you this:
No one's expecting Tony Ferguson to win this. That's the issue.
Right. Okay.
As
sure.
well as the guys on a losing
So
streak.
then, who does Patty fight next? Right. This jumps him up pretty high.
No, I mean it'll put him like somewhere in the top 15.
Top 15.
But
that's pretty high considering where he's at.
that's as high as that. It takes. You have to be top 15 to be ranked. Like he'll be ranked like 15.
Yeah.
That's
okay,
not that
but you still have to
impressive.
go through the first top 15, and when you look at that
Did he-
division.
All right, if he gets ranked 15, he still has 3 fights against ranked opponents at a minimum before he even has a chance.
Oh, I'm not even talking title shots. I'm just saying I don't think he's going to beat anyone in the top 15.
Oh, you're saying he's not going to win?
Yeah.
Okay.
UFC,
okay.
I just want to see. I want to see.
Let's see. So Bobby Green is 14. Yeah, no, he doesn't stand a chance in here. Maybe he beats Bobby Green.
Maybe UFC rankings. Yeah,
Drew Dober, I'm not familiar with him.
he's not bad.
Dos Anjos would be a pretty good one.
I'm trying to think of.
Bottom left there. They're the lights.
Oh, that's right. Freaking Makachev. So Drew Dober, Bobby Green. I don't even know. Oh, Saint Denis, Dos Anjos, Jalen Turner, Dan Hooker, Fizzy.
He's not beating.
Yeah, I don't think.
No one in the
beating
top
anyone
10
the
he's
15,
beating.
Not right now.
Maybe top 15. Definitely not top 10.
Isn't it wild how Ferguson's on the main? Like, think about that. Neither of these two are in the top 15, but they're a big enough draw that they're on the main card. That's pretty unheard of when you think about it. But, now this one sucks.
Yeah, I like Wonder Boy, and he's just gonna get
Shavkat
fucking destroyed.
versus Stephen Thompson.
He's fucked.
Wonder
dude.
Boy.
He's so fucked.
Yeah. So this is kind of big. This is kind of a fuck you from the UFC. So for those of you that don't know, last fight that Wonder Boy was supposed to have, the guy didn't make weight, and Dana said, "We'll give you another fight right now." And Wonder Boy said, "No, I'm not going to take another fight on short notice. I want to get paid and get out of here. I'm not going to fight someone else." And everyone was like, "Cool." And then one thing you don't want to do in the UFC is like tout on the internet, like, "Hey, Dana's got to pay me, do all this shit." So now Shavkat is going to utterly destroy Wonder Boy. I don't even think it's going to be a contest.
I agree.
Yeah, I think this is going to be
like insane.
If that goes into the second round, I'm going to be surprised.
Yeah.
Guy is 17-0 in welterweight.
Wonder Boy's got to watch his mouth.
Yeah, that was a really bad idea.
You can't be talking bad on Dana.
Yeah.
Dana's got a promotion to run. Like, you can't complain when he asks you to take a fight on short notice. Just say no and then just shut up about it.
Yeah, don't go to the internet and say, "Hey, I deserve to be paid
Yeah.
because my fighter didn't make weight."
At the same time, like, I don't blame him for saying no. I definitely blame him for complaining.
Yeah.
But I think that when Dana comes to you on, a couple days' notice telling you to take another fight, you should say no. Because if not, you end up like Volk, who was just arguably pound for pound, decides to fight the number 2 pound for pound on a couple days' notice and get like first round knocked out. Now a huge blemish on his record. Like, just not a good look. Like,
it's funny.
that fight would have gone differently if he had prepared for it.
Yeah, it's funny because Volkanovski, when you look at his record, like even that small blemish, to me, doesn't look that bad. Does that make sense?
Well, the blemish is to his only competition. That's why it looks bad.
Yeah, that's...
Like, what do you get to say? Him beating up, what's his name? The striker.
Him beating up Max Holloway?
Max Holloway 4 times makes him a Hall of Famer. That's all he really did.
Right. No, that's true. But his last fight that he lost was in the catchweight, right? Or did he go up a weight class for that?
He went up a weight class. He lost. And
so,
then,
yeah,
and
so
then
it's a loss in that weight class.
Well, he lost twice now. He's 2 losses.
I don't think either of them are in his weight class, though. Right? In his normal weight class. Definitely check that one. Because I think in his weight class, the, what is he, lightweight?
I don't think they are. Yeah, because I don't think Islam was planning on cutting for him.
You don't think that they are in his weight class, right?
No, I don't think they're in
I don't
his
think
weight
so
class.
either. So, like, that's why I don't think it really affects his record. Like, of course it affects his record.
But
but
that
like,
just
it
goes back
doesn't-
to what I just said. So then you're saying, regardless of his losses, his only wins are against a Max Holloway.
Well, yeah, he's cleaned out his division, which is still
Which
impressive.
is-
To clean out your division's insane.
How good's that division?
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
How impressive. Like, if you want to... And coming from a guy who used to be heavy. He used
he
to
never
be
really
big.
fought heavy, though. He
No,
was
of
a
course
heavy
not,
dude,
but
he
it's
never
like
fought.
we know he can get there.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me see.
That is interesting that you bring that up because
The only guy who almost beat him was Brian Ortega. That's it. And Brian Ortega is not that impressive. It's good jiu-jitsu.
remember that fight? That was when he got stuck and everyone was like, is he out?
Yeah.
Right? And somehow he got out of it. But yeah, that's going to be a tough one for Wonder Boy no matter what. If that goes into the second round, I'll be very surprised.
Yeah. Like, what Volk should have done was bulk up and fight... What's his name? Or cut and fight Sean O'Malley.
O'Malley. Ooh, I think he'd fuck O'Malley up. But the problem is...
I think so, too.
I think O'Malley's reach is too... Well, I would say that O'Malley's reach is a problem for anyone except for Volkanovski, you know? But on to the next one. Let's just go Andre Pantoja versus Brendan Royval. This is a pretty cool one. This is actually...
Should be a good fight.
Yeah, that's a good fight. I think a lot of people don't realize how good their styles match up. So that'll be pretty...
Yeah. Whenever I see a good fight like this, I tend to root for the American, which is our boy Brendan over here.
Yep.
Personally, it's flyweight, so I don't care.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly striking. But
Yeah.
it's not going to be hard hitting.
Yeah. But usually they are entertaining fights. Because
Yeah.
when they do start striking, it's like, nonstop.
Now talk
Their
about
cardio's great.
a weak ass between those three and maybe even and we're just kind of token giving Royval a spot here. Those three are really the only ones in that division. It's Moreno and these two. So it's one of those things where I think they're just going to keep rotating those three
What's
until
his name? Davidson something. Or did he retire? The guy who used to fight Moreno over and over. It looks like he retired. He's not on the rankings.
the only Cheeto Vera?
No.
Cheeto used to fight Brendan all the time.
No.
I
it was
think
Davidson.
they start at the top, right? Yeah. So it goes
Oh, Figueroa. Davidson Figueroa.
Figueiredo, thank you. Not Cheeto Vera. Brendan Moreno, Royval, and then I'm looking at Kai Kara France isn't bad. But everyone else on that, no clue who they even are.
I mean, I see a couple of possible daggies, so they'll probably be running that weight class soon. I see a Makav, an Ublikov, and a Dvorka. So
Yeah.
that's not too promising.
Um
It looks like the only real decently untouched division is featherweight.
yeah, right?
But their champ did just get beat up by a daggy, so given it wasn't that weight class.
So let's talk about the main event. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. How do you think this one goes down?
Colby tries to take him down the whole fight.
I think it's going to be a wrestling match for the most part.
I mean, it's not that. I forget how I should talk about this. Yeah, I was talking about this with Johnny.
Oop.
The word isn't it's going to be a wrestling match. The word is it's going to be Leon Edwards defending a takedown and Colby Covington trying to do a takedown. Winner of that, right there, will determine what the fight's going to be.
See, this is why I think Colby's going to have a little bit of problems. First off, he hasn't fought since he fought Usman, which was 2 years ago now, right?
No, his last fight was Masvidal, right when I moved down to Miami.
Colby Covington's last fight was Masvidal?
Yeah, right when I moved
Oh,
down.
that's right. Yeah.
Which is still...
Yeah, that's still 2 years ago, right? So he hasn't fought in 2 years. After seeing Leon Edwards defend against Usman, I'm like, oh man, this could be a problem.
I mean, I think that Usman went into that second fight thinking it was going to be easy for him, which I think was his downfall. I think that if Leon Edwards defends it against Colby tonight, he will have my... I already think he's a good fighter, Leon Edwards, but then he will really have my
so
respect.
for those of you that don't know, Leon Edwards fought Usman twice. The first time, Usman was basically dominating
Yeah.
him until this lucky, was it an elbow? I forget.
It
was a
was
kick, I think. Head kick, that's right.
Yeah, so
Off the dome.
it was guaranteed going to Kamaru Usman if it went to
Right.
decision. 110%.
Yeah.
Then with like it was just under a minute, like 50-something seconds left. Kamaru Usman kept making this mistake where he was throwing a punch and ducking his head right after. And with 50 seconds left, Leon Edwards picked up on that
And kicked him square in the head.
square in the
and
dome,
knocked
knocked him out for the belt, which was so crazy. I remember watching that. Then a few months, maybe a whole year later, Leon Edwards went to defend the belt against Kamaru Usman in his hometown, London. So it was big for him. He had the fans with him. He had everything. And it wasn't a very impressive fight. It went to decision, and they gave it to Leon Edwards.
It was wild because this is where my respect kind of came. Like in the first one, I thought it was complete luck that he head kicked him. So I think to your point, Usman went in like, oh, let me just not get head kicked again, and I got this in the bag.
Yeah.
But Leon basically defended every single takedown. Like they prepared for the wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's going to be no different with Colby. And I think Colby's severely underestimating. Like, if you couldn't take Usman down, there's no way you're taking Leon down easily. So I think the smart thing for Leon is just to play distance.
See, my point in what I was saying is that I'm not that impressed with Leon's second fight I'm not impressed with this first one. I thought it was luck. It was impressive that he got it, but, like, as an overall fight, not that impressive. Like, incredible that he pulled it off, but not that impressive. Mm-hmm. On top of that, fight number 2, which I watched in London, so I got the whole experience. It was not that impressive when you think about the fact that Kamaru Usman is in the end of his career, and the dude has been damaged. The dude can't walk up and down stairs.
Yeah, that's true.
Facing the stairs. He has to walk down them backwards. And you're telling me that guy's a threat in a ring?
Fair point.
Yes,
I think he actually got his knees fixed, but
it was his ankles. I thought it's his ankles.
I think it's his knees.
No, it's his ankles. He can't turn his ankles at all.
I think he did the Rogan placenta stuff. The
ankles. Yeah, well, it clearly didn't work. He lost his last fight to fucking.
Fair point.
Kamaru Usman ankles. I think it's his ankles.
All I know is that he can't do stairs. But I thought he got it fixed.
But I just don't think that was the same. Like we're holding Kamaru Usman to the standard of what he did to Colby and what he did to Masvidal,
right?
When in reality he's not that fighter anymore. And that's the only reason Leon Edwards got the belt.
My other question though, you know that he's had that knee problem since before he even fought Colby, right? He's always had that issue.
I don't think it's his knee. I don't know what you're talking about. I thought it was his ankles.
Like I heard that story about him not being able to do stairs like 3 years ago.
But like I'm saying, it only got worse. I'm not saying that shit.
Oh yeah, it's not like he got
it's not the same pain.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah, I thought Kamaru Usman can't do stairs.
That's what you googled. Kamaru Usman can't do stairs. I know he talked about it on Rogan.
Yeah, I'm looking at the clip. I forget. This is.
Yeah. Well, either way, we just did an hour, brother. I know that we're not too pressured on time, but
it is his knees. You're right.
Yeah. This is the first. This might be our last podcast in this place. We'll have to do Discord ones. Because, as everyone knows, I'm moving pretty soon.
As you do more Discord ones, I'm sure more people will be inclined to do them as well.
Yeah, so I know Matt's always asking to do it now. Matt's like, when are we going to do it again?
Yeah.
But, all right, real fast, you want to give us your picks for tonight? Bottom to top.
With if Ian Gary would have fought, or no?
No, there's no point. DraftKings, when they're like, hey, we want to sponsor you, give your picks, who are you going with?
I'd rather Bryce Mitchell, and I think Bryce Mitchell. I'd rather Tony Ferguson, but Patty's going to win. I would rather Wonder Boy, but Shavkat is going to demolish him. I want Brandon. I don't think he's going to win. I think
it's Pantoja
I think Pantoja's going to win. And then I want Colby, and I think Colby's going to win.
Really? Okay, I'll take you a different way. I think that Bryce Mitchell's going to lose. I think Josh Emmett's going to beat him. I think you're right about Patty. Shavkat's going to win. Pantoja. You know what? I'll take Royval.
Okay.
I'll take Royval just to be different. And I'm going to take Leon on this one. I think Leon's going to play smart. So.
Yeah. It's also important to know that Leon's already the champion. And when these guys become champions, all they do is play defense.
I think the problem with Colby is he doesn't have that many tricks up his sleeve except for the wrestling. Yeah. So that's why I think they've prepared for it. There's only one thing. Unless we see tonight Colby's just like this crazy striker in the last 2 years, but that's probably
I'm sure he'll be throwing some good punches, but I don't know. I think he's one of those guys that, you get money and then you start to cool off a bit. Verbally, he hasn't, but as a
Yeah,
fighter,
he hasn't been here for 2 years.
I don't know what his training's been.
And his last fight was Masvidal, who already had 1 foot out the door. So realistically, his last fight was Usman.
He was such a heavy favorite.
I think Leon Edwards is actually a worse matchup for him than Usman, in my opinion. Even though he couldn't beat Usman, but All right, we'll end it there. We just did an hour, brother. Last one, that was number 75. We've done 75 podcasts here. So, the only things I have to promote, we had the podcast I just put out, an escape room. I know we talk about it every time you're on here. We got to do the Minecraft videos. I've come up with so many ideas for these Minecraft videos.
I'm telling you, we can't do them. We don't have a server.
Oh. We actually need a server for that. You can do the...
I don't think you can land them anymore.
I think you can Hamachi it, but...
I don't think you can. I think they got rid of that.
I feel like I've done it. I'd be surprised. But either way, we'll figure it out. I do want to try those, just because I think those would be a lot of fun again, and everyone keeps asking for them, so let's do them. And then, just the usual social media promo codes, stream links, and that's about it. You got anything you want to promote, brother? Nothing?
Penn State football on November 30th. That's it.
What?
Penn State football.
Penn State football?
30th.
Okay. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll end it there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you soon.